Hello, everybody. It's another episode of Comics Della Morte, episode 16. Are you an angel or a demon? So, what do you think about the
Man,
show?
this is okay. This is a really, really good book. I'm not going to be able to hold off long.
And I dressed up
Turn
for
this
the
down. Okay.
character just for funs and
Yes,
giggles.
we got Frankenstein in the building today, y'all. So,
From the
but
novel,
no,
not the
okay.
classic Frankenstein. So, yeah.
So anyway, this to me, like this is Frankenstein. Like this is Frankenstein to me. So
Mhm.
I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is a 10 out of 10. This book
Oh, yeah.
for me, we usually talk for a little bit before we do our ratings, but I'm just gonna cut to the chase. And I'm not talking about this whole thing. I'm talking about this is a perfect 9-page chapter. Man, everybody's in the chat. Alexander,
Right?
Van Illustration, Swifty Knight, Kamikaze. What's up, y'all? What are y'all doing over here? Y'all been talking and talking. We wouldn't even know. That's all right. All right. Well, anyway, let's just get started. Let me I'm trying to get let me get my stuff transferred. Ronnie, can you lay it down real quick? I'm gonna try to get my pages transferred to my iPad so I can see the
Not a problem.
so I can see the
with the last novel, we got to the point where Frankenstein, he literally ran up to the volcano and the hot mud literally buried his body. And we're like, okay,
Yep.
he's the narrator. So at this point, we know that he's not dead. But
Right.
it was just a really great screenshot. I mean, picture. So I had to use it for the thumbnail.
Right.
And that right there, I mean, it's just really detailed.
Money. Like you guys.
Like, look at the rock pebbles right there. I mean, that took a while to literally make the rock detail. I mean, he just didn't like made a bunch of circles and then call it like these are rocks. No, those you could look and see the like shading and the texture on those. Really good work.
And if I'm not mistaken, this book is from the 90s. So this is like
this is
pen and paper on. There's Is it?
I'm pretty sure
this artwork,
but I'm pretty sure he does most of the artist when he was alive. He did most of his stuff like traditional.
Yeah.
So
no, this is at the premium top level of art in general, but definitely comic book art. Like this stuff just kind of just feels like when you would see, like when we first saw Alex, right? Or when I first saw Alex Ross doing his when I first saw Kingdom Come, I was like, man, like I never thought a comic book would look like this. Like there've been Alex Ross covers for a little bit, but you always said, man, I would never be able to imagine a comic book that looks like this. And then when you read Kingdom Come, it was like watching a movie. And that's exactly how this is. Like now you know that somehow there's beyond all logic, Frankenstein's body, which should still just be a human body, just alive after it's dead, but not even a volcano can kill it. Like, what did the doctor create? This guy's who knows how long he's been in there. It's been hundreds of years. He's been encased in this, just like he died when the lava was falling around him. Arms are still in the same position, and he looks like a rock formation. But of all things, this guy is just eccentric enough to say, I want to bring him home. Because if this happened in 2020, I would just take a picture of it and post it on my Instagram. I wouldn't bring it home with me. Like, that's really scary. But it was like the right person at the right time.
Yeah.
You know, it
So
was
at this
just
point, the guy's basically talking with this crew because they thought it was a meteor shower, but they're like, no, this is like some type of statue or something that's all the way up in these mountains that shouldn't be here because there's no way to really survive up here without the proper like gear. So yeah, really great stuff. So we're gonna go
I
on to
tell
the
you,
next page. No,
yeah,
go ahead.
real quick though, I'll tell you what's cool, and this kind of like the next page can kind of work with what I'm getting ready to say too. But I
Hmm.
just before we got too far on in it, I just wanted to say like from the beginning, this felt more like a comic book than all 19 pages of the first chapter of this. That felt like you were watching the movie that led up to this comic book. Like
Yeah.
it just felt like an old book. Like you could feel the weight of the pages and the crinkly yellow edges,
Hmm.
and the
Even though it's
writing was
digital. Yeah.
very
Hmm.
yeah, the writing was very close to it was almost like Victorian writing. Like it was
Yeah.
suited to the era. And now
Hmm.
you know that this is the same story, but it's in a little bit more current time, and it's even constructed like a more current comic.
Yeah. The
Then
writer did a
that
really good job to transition it. Yeah.
it's bananas. Like whoever,
Hmm.
whether it was the artist Bernie Wrightson or the writer, and his name is Steve Niles. I don't know who was laying these pages down or if they did it together, but this again lends itself to the power in writing comics, because
Hmm.
you not only have to write script, but you also have to write environment, and you also have
Yeah.
to write your characters, and that is it's done to perfection in here.
Hmm.
And then the artwork matches the intelligence of the
Hmm.
writing, and it's just, this is like the Great Pyramid. Like this is perfectly constructed. It's true north, true south, true east, true west. Okay,
Hmm.
I'm done now. I'm
No,
very
no,
bubbly about this book.
no. You're right because as a writer for comics, is one of those things is that when you're doing a certain period piece, you can't have people talk slang and everything like we have now. You really have to like don't go too overboard with the way they talk back then, but make it seem like that time period.
Right.
That's very
It's
key.
like you can't have an airplane flying through the shot if you're doing a movie about dinosaurs, if you're doing a movie
Hmm.
about cavemen. And
Exactly.
it counts. All that stuff counts. And it's easy.
Hmm.
No. It's not easy to do. It's different to do when you're using a moving motion picture camera. But to but to free but to be able to capture this in one page panels or 2 page panels, I mean two
Hmm.
panel pages, man, like this is why we do it. Like this is why we
Yeah,
love it, and this is why we want to do it, because you want to have a shot at being able to pull something off like this, because
exactly.
this counts. Yeah.
Is like, you could have a giant panel with a bunch of dialogue boxes and not have like 6 to 9 different boxes showing everything,
Yeah,
show the scenery, show how difficult it was to drag this giant body through the snow that
exactly.
where they're like,
That's
okay,
exactly what I was gonna say. Yep.
this body should not belong here,
Right.
because of the way the environment is, that nothing could really survive up here. And but
And
during that time, you remember how everything was like much greener because of the volcano. So it just shows you how much time has passed between then, like
right,
probably
yeah.
hundreds
It's
of
an
years.
entirely different climate. Yeah, it's an entirely
Hmm.
different climate. And you hit it spot on with that picture, Ronnie, because if they had done if they had done a couple of close-up shots of
Hmm.
different parts of the monster in this stone, you wouldn't have been able to get the scope of his size until you realize like there are animals in the shot that won't come close to what they're doing. And these mountains in the back are still really big. But also look at how big this thing is that's encased in this stone. And these people are dragging it out by hand in at least knee-deep snow.
And it shows you that
see how heavy he...
look 3 months later. Like the readers can't see it, but it literally took them 3 months to drag his body all the way from the snowy Antarctic, I believe, where they found him, to, I guess, London now. I can't really recall where they took him, but 3 months, that's a long time. So
I bet you 2 or 3 of these people quit. Like they quit their jobs. Because exactly. You know what I mean? Like when you can see where you're taking it, like, nope, I'm done. I'm out. We're not doing it.
The guy's literally sinking into the snow, and he's probably like almost 6 feet. And he's like, man, this thing is heavy. Yeah, great.
Yeah, and I'm not done. I'm only going when I get out of this snow, I'm only going to be about where the head of this thing is now.
Yeah.
I quit. Great. Like that's just I'm sure it happened. I'll take my chances with these wild animals.
Great detail though.
A1, man. I love it.
This one I really love, just for the fact is, let me try to make the screen larger if possible. Let's see.
Guys, go get a Comixology account and go for no other reason than to read this book. And I bet you there's a quadrillion more books as good as this on there, but I don't know that for certain. But what I do know is that this book right here is special. You don't, I don't feel like this a lot with comics, but there's a few. And this is, other than Uzumaki, this is like one of the few comic books that I feel this feeling about. As much as I love the writing, but I feel this feeling because this book is so amazing to look at. Like, we no matter what we say, we are not doing it justice. You need to go look at this book, hands down. Look at your Comixology account. It's got a free trial. You go find this book and look at it and enjoy it, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, because like just talking about it, but just the first panel where you actually get to see like where the man lives in his mansion, just very detailed in like the stone and like the roofing. I mean, that guy did a really good job of laying out like the texture. Like he could have easily just went the small route, but he's like, no, I'm gonna make this like landscape very detailed to the point where it's because like,
the trees are so beautiful. The trees are so beautiful. He could have faded the structure way back.
Exactly.
But everything is, and what you guys can't see is the rooftop on this building has the slightest blue tint to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know you see it, Ronnie. It looks like a photo. It just looks like a photo. Like it's amazing. You just don't see it like like this is beyond like great artwork. It really, really is. And it's, I don't know, Ronnie, like this is awesome. Like this is like this is what this channel is about. Like when you said you wanted to review horror comics, like these are the things that I never thought that this is what we would be talking about. And I love it. Like it makes me love horror comics even more, and it makes me love comics because it's like they're so relevant. They're just so relevant. Like this is work. It's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Yeah. I totally agree. This book, I mean, it's great because we've seen like the Eastern horror at its best, and this is like the Western horror at its best. You know, two different monsters but great in their own ways.
Yeah.
So
and it's perfect. Like you said, like we saw Uzumaki, and that to me is current modern day horror perfection. Like to me, like if we only ever talked about Japanese horror from what I've read and what we read, like with the Junji Ito stuff, I would be totally happy. But if you're going to start, if you're going to start Western American horror, it should start with who are the classic American horror monsters, regardless of where they originated from. Like, give me the Universal horror movies. Give me like the peak of horror for the time, and it was that. And if you don't start with Dracula, you have to start with Frankenstein. And this is Frankenstein at its most pure. Like this is fantastic. Like it completely changes my outlook on the Universal horror monsters, because this updates it without bringing it into 2020. You know what I mean? Like, it's not ultra futuristic, but it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, okay, we should talk about the story a little bit. And I'm gonna try to contain myself, but
and now we pretty much, he's trying to set up the statue. So it's like this guy's like, you're trying to prop up the statue against the wall. You're an old man, and you have to have like 5 people help you carry
3 months.
Yeah, for 3 months, and he's gonna try to do it by himself. So he's dropping it, and he's like, "No, hell and damnation." I'm like, it's like he knew what was gonna happen.
3 months salary I paid those people, and I crashed it in one day.
And now we see Frankenstein.
Frankenstein was inside of it, like an Easter egg.
His hair's melted. All of his clothes are melted, except for his body is like intact.
It's so crazy. Like, look at that physique. Like, Frankenstein's not built like you and I, because he's a bunch of people that's stitched together. But I feel like this is still anatomically correct for whatever Frankenstein is. Like, I would feel confident to do an autopsy on this thing and be able to like diagnose severe undead medical opportunities to be fixed.
Yeah. And at this point, he's literally trying to go through telling him, it's like, you're a Homo sapien and all that stuff. It's like, this man was born during like way before those periods, but he's like, are you a dingy, a supernatural being, an angel or a demon, a great god? What are you? And he's like, I want to live. And I'm alive, and that's pretty much what he is. He doesn't know what he is. He doesn't know what his purpose is. But great
walking, talking case of the Mondays.
Yeah, just a great detail, and just but like his hair singed, but it's just great stuff.
Yeah, it looks like how you would think that the monster would look after being burned, like buried and burned alive at the same time.
Yeah.
But
and now,
like, what's crazy is his hair grows.
Yeah, it grows back.
Yeah, and this guy's nursing him back to health. And Frankenstein in the second panel, like, almost has that classic look. He's just missing the bolts in his neck. Like, but what I noticed about what Frankenstein was talking about, and it's like, this is one of the cool things about the writing in this book, is Frankenstein is his mind is still from where he's from. He's still from the time where he's from.
Yeah.
And so he's studying this guy, and this guy is basically he's an eccentric for his time, but Frankenstein is already aware that because of this guy's background, he shouldn't really go crazy telling him how he came to be, because obviously this guy's got a room of art and death. So You know what I mean? Frankenstein is like, I don't want to entrust anybody with the ability to bring dead things back to life, because this is the type of person that would take that to its absolute most worst limit. And so he's responsible for what he is at the same time as being cursed with it.
Yeah. And now just this
taking that
scene,
big panel.
I love this big panel. But first off, the doctor's just talking about like how he has a physician and a scholar and he's a collector and a student of like arcane medicine and arcane culture. So he's a scientist, but he believes in the supernatural and magic during that time period. And you could really see in this giant piece where he has the giant gator hanging from the wall, all these like specimens in jars and skeletons, and like all these like mystic headpieces from like different cultures. Just this scene right here, the snow probably took a long time, but this I know had to take a long time, because just you guys have to get the book and just read it, because he added so much detail that he could have just made some of these things like very like translucent and not that great to finish up the page faster. But no, like in the corner here on the right side by the gator's tail, there's like a shelf full of skulls, you know?
I tell you what's awesome, Ronnie, about this page. Like, the page is in 3 dimensions, obviously. But if you look, you can't really see where I'm pointing, but if you look at this archway on the left-hand side, like where the ceiling is kind of arched, right where you're pointing, you can see that you can walk around this pillar and come right out where where the monster and the eccentric are. Like, you can tell that in the page. Like, you don't see art like this in comics a lot. And it's like 4 panels. Like, there's 3 panels on this page, but this page is full. And there's no inch of this page that was wasted, or there's no there's no panel set outside of this main panel. So you can look at this page for hours. Like, some of the heads, some of the skulls still have like flesh on them. Like, there's one back here, you can actually make out an eye and a nose and lips and a head. Just the level of detail. I just think I just don't want to just breeze through the story, because everything is here to be looked at. And
like look at right here with the statue of the woman with the breasts and no arms. Like, there's literally a mummified body in that case. Right next to the right of her. Just beautiful. Like, this would be a great screenshot just for like looking at study on how to make a 3D image for a comic book page, because it's just done amazingly.
And the edges are so subtle. Like, it almost looks like pencil lines. Like, it almost just looks like pencil work. It's just, I don't know, man. This is a beautiful book.
I didn't get a chance to see that. I saw you.
Oh, yeah. No worries.
But
this is wild. Like, so basically, this is like the reality of this is there's nothing that Frankenstein can do. I mean, there's nothing that the monster can do to get away from Frankenstein. Whatever that energy is, he's always going to have it. It's always going to guide him through whatever his life is. You know, it's not exactly Victor now, but this is it. Like, this, he's stuck with them. You know, he's learning the world from Victor Frankenstein again.
Yeah.
Just a different time.
And now on to the next page. Now at this point,
library.
And this is what I love, is that he wanted to make this comic issue very like emotional and detail and use like the less panels as possible, and that's what I like.
Yep. And he accomplished everything. Like, it all makes sense. The story flows well. And so he says basically, like, if you want to learn the world that you live in, I can tell you what I know, and you can come in the library, you can read whatever you want. And I mean, there's some old ass books in here, you can tell. You know, and
hey, it's Peter.
Hey, what's going on, Palmiati? What's up, man? So yeah, like, this page is like, I don't want to bore y'all by saying the same thing over and over again, but it's like there's 1,000 points of detail in all of these books. They're all different. It's amazing. If I could draw a library like this, I would be happy to only ever draw libraries. If somebody said you can draw, this is all you can draw, I'd be like, all right, line them up. I'll do them all. Like, I'll just draw these books forever. Because this is great, like, down to the sunlight coming through at the back of the room and the god beams. Like, just, you know, again, a lot of dialogue, but it's all super simplistic.
Just talking about how he's only read a couple books out of his, like 4 books out of his life, but he just loves knowledge. And this is basically like his fantasy. You know? Yeah. It's like, because Frankenstein at this point, he wants to be known as a human and not as a monster. And, you know, he feels that these books could give him knowledge to know what humanity is all about and how he could fit in.
Yep. The more he can do, the more he can escape. I mean, the more he can learn, the better chance he has to figure out how to escape. Whatever that means, whether that means that he can, like, be embraced as a human again, or whether that means he can, like, just die and it all be over. But he's got to have knowledge to do that. And is just so great. Like, the concept of this is just so bananas for the time period and for it to continue to make sense. Like, just stellar work. And so, you know, he starts learning. He just starts reading and he starts learning. And
man, I'm just so amazed.
I'm speechless, man. I'm speechless. I've looked at this already, but it's like every time, man.
And he's just reading here, but it's like we were talking about that, you know, long days, nights. I poured long days and nights I poured over these many and various volumes. I discovered within myself and all but thirstable for knowledge on any and all subjects, and just talking about art, history, but the one thing he loves most is human history. And like we were saying, he wants to know where he comes from. And at this point, you have the doctor literally teaching him, you know, everything he can about, you know, human nature, because he has a degree, because he's a scientist. And we get to know a little bit more about the new doctor that he got involved with. And you see all the test tubes, just amazing, great work there on the shine to give it like that glass
just bananas,
effect,
man. Yeah.
Instead of just a clear image, like you took like the grayish blue in a way and just give it a little shine there. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
But here
it's just it's so solid.
But here we find out that he's basically trying to work on a antidote that could cure human disease, and his wife has a disease that it's slowly making her die, but because of his antidote, it has helped her to basically retain her life a little bit longer. So, you know, to Frankenstein, it's like, well, if this man is able to use my blood, he'll probably find like the like what he's been looking for all this time.
Right.
And Frankenstein in the beginning, he knows that, hey, I don't know you and I don't know if I could trust you. And just finding more and more, you know, so far this guy seems like a nice guy teaching Frankenstein or everything, but
Right.
we don't know his true intentions.
Yeah, is he just using Frankenstein? Is you know what I mean? It's just
And here he's talking about like his antidote was from the blood of unborn fetuses and prime ingredients, stuff like that to help with the
yeah,
cure the disease as much as it can. So
yeah.
yeah.
It's fantastic, man. Like it's such a short read. Like we're almost to the end of it, but
Mm-hmm.
this is his wife. It's a quest for him to save his life, and then of all the things for him to find a undead giant that is intelligent and is learning, and it's almost like he left the monster to his own devices because he knew that he could get his brain on par with him and give him that singular focus to help him figure out how he works so that he can use his blood to save his wife.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this guy is obviously smart already for him to even have figured out this much. So where are we going here? Like, it's just...
Great stuff.
On and on to just another just stellar page of them still doing the research.
Yeah. And at this point you see more lighting.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's tuberculosis or consumption. I think that's the same thing. If I remember my Oregon Trail days good enough.
Oregon Trail days. Yeah.
But it's just, again, like they're pouring through these books, and now Frankenstein is actually like not just learning, but
I appreciate that.
Hey man, thank you. That's awesome. And y'all should be subscribing, absolutely, because these are fun, and we're all learning something together, and Ronnie's kind of the tour guide. So, but no, it's just he said he would have given up if he hadn't had if nothing had broken in his favor quicker. He was just going to give up and just let his wife die, pretty much. And just as they're talking, here comes the wife. And
but at this point, this is the point where Frankenstein pretty much is like, okay, I could trust this man, because just hearing the way the man talks about his wife gives me such, happiness or relief, because pretty much he's like, this man studies arcane medicine and all in the supernatural, because in the end he's probably doing it to help find a way to cure his wife in any means possible.
Exactly. Nothing conventional has worked.
Yeah, not just because he wants to find out and gain power.
Yeah, nothing conventional has worked for him to save his wife. So what do you do now? You turn to the supernatural. You turn to these alternative types of medicine that some people wouldn't understand. And the problem, I mean, it's good and it's noble, and you have a monster that's helping you. But the problem with that is you have to find a way to explain to your wife not to panic when she sees the 7-foot-tall monster with no nose. He's on our side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How do you get there? So when she sees him, of course she faints. And he's like, well, she's weak anyway. And it's like, no, it's not that she's weak. It's that Frankenstein is in your house. So let's be real here.
And there you go. And just look at the expressions really great scared expressions and terrified expressions. And at this point, we see like Frankenstein. He's not just this big monster. He gets scared too.
He's fully self-aware and he's afraid of himself.
Yeah.
Like no matter what he learns and no matter how much knowledge he gains, like this is what people are going to do when they see you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so he's a monster. He's the princess trapped in the tower, but he's the princess and he's the tower. You know, it's exactly. Like it's a very daunting reality, and that is something that
he's the Beauty and the Beast.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, it's like
that's what kind of reminds me of like the books.
Yeah, you know, this is the cool thing about writing, and for me personally, like writing for comics, because you do have like amazing artists that can like accomplish this stuff, but because of the writing and because you are aware that that this monster, I keep calling him Frankenstein, but you know what I mean. But because he's self-aware, that's the horror inside of the horror. And it's not scary. It's not scary until it can scare you. I'm never going to have a situation where I have bolts in my neck. I'd probably be dead before that happens. But I can identify with what Frankenstein feels. But I can also identify with being truly disfigured and the psychological effect that would have if you didn't have a nose on your face.
Yeah.
On top of being like the size that he is and like the strength and the killing power. But he doesn't want any of that as much as he just wants to either exist
and be accepted.
Not. Yeah, exist and be accepted, or I don't want to exist at all. Like this is what hell looks like. This is much worse than burning forever. It's like existing in a state that no one not only is repelled by you, but terrified. It's crazy.
Yeah. Great stuff.
Man, like what a strong 9 pages. Like very, very, very short, but it didn't really feel short. It felt right. Like he told, like this chapter accomplished what they needed, and there was no need to try to make it a 22-page book. And there was no need to add anything else. Not an even number. Give me 9 pages. Get out.
And I just love the dialogue here. It's like for all this time, months, years in the house, the only human face I had seen was Dr. I can't see that. Inglis. Yeah. He was Inglis. He was never repulsed by my face or form. He had always treated me as an equal. I had grown it's kind of hard to see. Accustomed to
I got it on my iPad.
Yeah, if you want to read that, because it's kind of hard to read from here.
Yeah. Okay. So it says, for all this long time, months, years in this house, the only human face I had seen was Dr. Ingalls. He was never repulsed by my face or form. Indeed, he had always treated me as an equal, and I had grown accustomed to his unconditional acceptance. But now, in an instant, the realization of my true nature returned with all the force of an avalanche. In Dolly's horror-stricken eyes, I saw the true reflection of who and what I really am. A travesty of humanity, a mockery of God and all creation, a monster.
Yeah. Awesome.
That's writing, y'all. Like,
exactly.
That's writing. And then, like, just the to end with the monster having the look of terror on his face. This is a horror story, Ronnie. This is the horror. Like, this is it. We found it. Like, we once again, like, we keep turning over these logs, and we keep finding centipedes and grubs, and we find like all these different horror types. Like, this is the closest that we've been back to what we started with, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, we
saw Uzumaki, and that was a fantastic, stellar book. And then we did another Ito story, and then we started Scott's book. And Scott's book was horror, but it was horror for a time period that we identified with. And it was like, it was everything that you wanted from 80s horror. And then it's like, we did Blood Realm, and that brought something different to the table. And it was like, looking back on it now, there were so many different little things that I appreciated. But for not the art itself, but the art design, this book is the next step of what we saw there, if that makes sense. Like, just with that black and white palette, and then that muted or bright, vibrant blue color that they use a lot in this book, like when it's really, really cold and they use that blue for the mountains. And now it's like, in this room, you see it a little bit, man. It's just like, this book has just puts together so many things. And I guess that's what quality is. I guess that's how you identify it, is it's like, you got little bits of everything that you see that you like, but then you see it all in one place. Then it's like, that's like nachos or lasagna or pizza or anything that you like. I like all these things separate, but now they're held together with cheese. And it's like, yes, nostalgic horror through and through. Yeah.
And for Mike and Rick, yes, I have the link to the second issue in the description for this, that you could just take the link there and get a chance to read it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well worth it. Oh, I didn't even see that, Kamikaze. I'm sorry. Yeah, Comixology is the place to get it. So
and
yeah,
that will be the start of issue 3, where literally he's carrying his wife's body. And yeah, just great panel to end it on.
I can't wait to see what happens next. Like, I'm really trying to read this. Like, I read this one yesterday. I'm trying to read it to where it's like super fresh, because I know it's just like, I could read it and I'll talk to you through the week, and we'll end up talking about everything that we're going to talk about on the chat. So I try to read it later in the week.
Right.
But you know, it's good stories just kind of get your mind going, and they like get you into it. It's like, that's what I appreciate about you dressing up like Frankenstein today. Is it's like, this is like, you go to a sports game and like, you put on, you know, you paint your face for the team you like and everything. Right. Like, this is a book that's worth celebrating, guys. Like, this is what I love about comics, is like, no matter how many you read of them, you can become a chef and you start to break people's food apart, and that's cool, but that's not really where it's at. And it's like, when you read other people's comic books, you start to appreciate the nuances, and it's like what your creative process is, and you appreciate that you can just see where people enjoy doing their thing. You know, not to get too far off subject, but that was kind of like my saving grace with watching the last Star Wars movie, because it was so different than everything else. But, you know, I realized that, I used Maybelline. You know, it's like, if you got a chance to play in your favorite sandbox, you would have so many things that you just wanted to do that you might get lost in the sauce for a little bit. But, you know, like, everybody gets to create whatever they want to create. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is like, I enjoy like watching people create and watching them play their instruments their way, because it's all different. And this book is just premium. This is a dream book. Like, it's such a cool book to read. So I'm glad it was recommended to us. I'm glad you found out where it was. I'm glad we get to keep reading it, and so no, I'm having a blast. So it's not a long story, but
no,
we got what, two more chapters,
2 more issues. Frankenstein Alive, and then I did find the prequel to this, which is Frankenstein. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm totally down for both of those. Like, I'm down to finish this, and then I'm down to go back. But I get hooked. Like, I'm glad you bounced us around, because we would still probably be doing Junji Ito books if it was up to me, because I just love it.
I mean, it's just great to have horror and just to look at different types of horror. And for, Halloween, it's on a Saturday this year.
Yep.
But if you want to, we could do it on Saturday instead of a Friday. And we could, and, I could talk about, and you could talk about how you did it for your horror stories.
we could. Like,
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about other people's stuff. We can actually talk about your stuff on Halloween.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about that. Because I'll be all done. We'll be done. I'll be done with the challenge.
Yeah.
On that day. So, man, if y'all haven't looked at what I've been posting, and the jewel is what me and Aaron have been doing, guys. Like,
and if you could get a hold of Aaron, it'll be actually great to get both of you on.
Okay, yeah, we'll see. I have to talk to him about that. He's a behind the scenes guy. So, gotcha. But this stuff, man, like that we've been putting out on Instagram, we're doing 31 stories in 31 days. I send him a script, he bangs out the artwork. And so we've done 2 so far. We're going to do it the rest of the month. It's Fall Breaker Open. Check it out on my Instagram. There's a few people that have been posting pretty consistent stuff, and it's all good. So, like, check it out. Like, it's hashtag Fall Breaker Open, but if you hit my link, Fall Breaker Studios on Instagram, you'll be able to see all about it.
Yeah. But yeah, super fun. See you all next week. Same time.
Yep. Y'all be
Bye,
good.
everyone.
Have fun. Bye.